Now, in the first hour, you've heard that London is burning, that stock markets are going up in flames as well. But the Irish presidential race, you could argue, is a welcome distraction from all of that doom and gloom. All eyes at the moment are on Gay Byrne, who has said he will state his position sooner rather than later. So let's meet a confirmed independent candidate who is touring the Midlands at present. Sean Gallagher will be familiar to you if you are a fan of Dragon's Den. In his own right, he is a highly successful businessman who wants to occupy the Áras for some reason. So let's see, can we drill into that? Sean, you're very welcome to the programme.
Delighted to be with you, Will, this morning.
You're self-made. You've had your own successes. You presumably don't need the money that being president would pay you. So why do you want to do this?
Well, I suppose the first thing is, yes, you've explained well that I'm an entrepreneur and I've had some successes, and like all businesses in the last number of years, suffered a lot of pain. But for me, long before even being an entrepreneur, I was a youth worker, I was a farmer, I've been involved in the community. But most importantly, at this point, I want to put enterprise and, more importantly, job creation at the heart of the next presidency. Because if the next president is to be really relevant to Ireland, it must deal with the presidency must deal with the current issues that are facing Ireland, and all of us know that that's huge unemployment and emigration that follows. And I want to put job creation at the heart of the presidency, just like over the last 14 years President Mary McAleese put the peace process and building bridges at the heart of her presidency. And I think that's what people want now. They want to see this as a sleeves rolled up job, to try and encourage people at home with a sense of positivity and a can-do attitude, and also to represent Ireland well abroad, because we now need tourism, we need jobs, we need foreign direct investment. We need to get our people back to work.
OK, let's analyse how you're going to do that. You've used Mary McAleese and her role in the North as a comparison. The presidency is arguably the most senior diplomatic role that we have, and diplomacy is at the heart of a peace process. What does it have to do with job creation?
Well, if we cast our minds back, Will, 14 years ago, nowhere in the Constitution does it say that a President of Ireland has any role in peace building. But that's exactly what she did, and her husband Martin. Based on her own life experience and her expertise and her knowledge of the situation, she built bridges north and south and even east and west, culminating in the visit recently of Queen Elizabeth to our shores. And similarly, with my background and my work experience, I want to put that at the heart of the next presidency. How can that be done? Well, if I look at where a president goes and where the cameras follow them, I was out in the Brosna indoor market yesterday, visiting in Mullingar, where lots of small businesses and even those who are unemployed, I met them recently at a talk I gave working with unemployed people who were unemployed recently in Mullingar. Many of them have set up little businesses and stalls. 8,000 people came through that last weekend. Now, there's people getting up and doing something for themselves. I want to shine a light on what's working and to change the conversation. So much of what we hear in media and everywhere else is about what's not working, and yet everywhere I go, yesterday in Athlone, in the community centre, in the Living Links project, in the Open Door project, where we're talking about helping people who are dealing with bereavement and suicide, people who are recently unemployed coming together for counselling and support. People are doing great things, and we need to continue to shine a light on those. But also internationally, I've been on very many trade missions as an entrepreneur, and when I worked with the County Enterprise Board. And we have a great entrepreneurial spirit in Ireland. What we need to do is take our companies that are doing well here and introduce them to the bigger markets. And we're good at food, and we're good at tourism, and we're good at software. And we need to break in not just to the American markets, but into Brazil, India, Russia, China, where requirements for food will be huge in the next 20 years. Ireland can play a major role in that, which results in jobs at home. And a president with an understanding of enterprise can do a major amount leading up those trade missions and attracting foreign direct investment.
I was going to ask, how hands-on will you be? How far up will the sleeves be rolled? Will you be, I can't imagine a president leading a trade mission.
Presidents lead trade missions all the time in other countries, and progressively I've noticed that many of the state visits of President Mary McAleese have been set to coincide with IDA visits abroad or Enterprise Ireland visits, and I've been on a number of them, and they do work because the role of the president abroad, our president abroad, is perceived significantly greater than that at home.
In what way?
Well, if a president visits a country abroad, it opens doors, but it also attracts a huge number of not just the diaspora, our Irish people who have businesses abroad, But many of the other businesses, for instance, in America, we have 600 American companies in Ireland creating 100,000 jobs. When an Irish president visits, it creates a great enthusiasm. Just like when President Obama visited Ireland, look at the number of people who came out. The same happens when a president from Ireland visits. It opens doors and attracts a lot of interest.
We
need to build on that.
About that because of the size of our nation relative to, you mentioned Obama and America and so on. We would perceive, maybe out of modesty or whatever, that when the Irish president goes abroad, it's a blip on the radar.
Yeah, but you would be surprised, the reach of our diaspora abroad and how we're perceived internationally. People view us, if you look at the number of companies that locate here, we've got most of the top companies in internet and digital, in pharmaceutical, biopharma and medical device. They're all here because they see Ireland as a potential player. Now, it's true in the last 2 years our reputation has been damaged internationally. But that reputation can be repaired by a president visiting these countries. What I hear on my listening tour, and that's what I'm doing, Will, around the country, today in Tullamore, yesterday in Mullingar, Athlone and Kinnegad, I'm asking people what they want, because this is not about me. This is about the people of Ireland electing a president to be their face and their voice, not just of the Ireland as it is now, but what we want it to be in the coming years. And I'm asking them, articulate your views to me about what should the president be about. People are saying, first, it's about representing Ireland with dignity, just as Mary McAleese has done, and we need to build on that. Secondly, it is about trying to create jobs for our young people because they're emigrating and we're losing their vitality, but more importantly, we're losing their potential contribution to our economy. Thirdly, they're saying to me it's very much about shining a light on community, just like the project I visited, just like the one I'm going to now with the National Council for the Blind. People who are doing great work with those who need help in our society. So we need to shine a light on all of that to get more people involved. It is about community spirit. If I look at the Midlands business network that I visited yesterday and the one I'm going to in Mount Mellick, businesses are even coming together to support each other. And in communities, I'm seeing a return back to common decency. After the last 15 years of this Celtic tiger, I'm now seeing people coming back to the core values of honesty, integrity, but of supporting each other, because it is only by working together in our communities can we move this on to the next chapter.
You mentioned those three roles that people would like a president to fulfil, and you've certainly articulated your business acumen and your role in community life. Let's deal with the first, the diplomatic role, being an ambassador for the country. Everybody recalls Mary McAleese and how she excelled when Queen Elizabeth II was here, and then Barack Obama. How would you feel about taking on those roles, and what diplomatic experience have you, if any?
Well, I guess if you look back to, President McAleese, she had no diplomatic experience when she took on the role. That's part of it. You rise to the challenge. But what is a diplomatic role? It's about welcoming people, and it's about relationship building. It's about selling and being an ambassador for Ireland. It's about projecting that view across. I think all of us in Ireland now need to be ambassadors for Ireland and represent our country when we're abroad in any guise, whether we're as tourists or as business people, or whether we're promoting Ireland for our food or our industry.
Fine, but only one person will really have the spotlight on them, and potentially that could be you.
Sure, and I think that's about treating people with respect. It's about acknowledging the seniority of the office, and that you're not representing yourself. You are, in fact, representing the people of Ireland.
OK, let's talk about some of the other contenders. And I'm not going to annoy you too much by dwelling on Gay Byrne, but he has been in several polls picked out as a firm favourite. Should he stand? Does that frustrate you and annoy you that all of this effort could be for nothing?
For what? If Gay stands? I think that's solely a matter for Gay, as you'd appreciate, and he's taking counsel now from his advisors. It's the same as many other candidates.
Let's be honest, you're trying to manage a campaign here, and here's this big fish about to land in the small pond. Does it concern you?
No, because, it's a little bit like if you ever went out when I was playing minor football, you could only play with the team that turned up on the pitch. And so there'll be lots of speculation, and there has been lots of speculation about lots of candidates, and I'm sure that will continue. For me, I'm going to focus very much on my own campaign to meet the people around the country. At the end of this month, having listened to everybody in every single part of this country and all the various sectors, I'm going to put together what I believe is the theme of the next presidency and what we need to do to help get this country back on its feet, and how the role of the president, like every other organ of the state, can be put to work in that guise. And I'm not focusing on any other candidates. I would really like that this debate all over the country and nationally would move from personalities and polls to the real debate, which is what is the role of the president?
Of presidential contests. You know?
Yeah, and it's much more, Will, it's much more significant than that. I mean, the country's at a crucial point. Everybody is challenged. People, whether it's in small businesses struggling to survive, people who are recently unemployed trying to get back into work or trying to create a job, people who are emigrating and seeing their young people emigrating and family members. It's too serious to make it flippant about personalities and polls. I want it to be about what's the role of the President and how can we put that role to work for all our people.
But in answering that question, here's what I don't understand, Sean. You talk about job creation and leading and so on and shaping how we do that. Would the role of a TD not be far more effective in performing what you want to do than the role of a largely figurehead president?
I don't believe that, because I believe that the President can set the tone. And, one of the other things that people are telling me very strongly at national level in every single part of the country is that we have lost our sense of self-confidence and, most importantly, our sense of self-belief. Now, the President needs to be able to breathe that back in as they visit the country around meeting not just business but community and youth and those who work and help with those who are isolated or have disabilities. It is about finding that gene that we have inherent in us, that sense of self-determination, that our future doesn't happen to us. It is in fact created by us, and that we can shape our destiny. At this moment, as I go around, I see hopelessness and helplessness where people do not feel that. It is about the big picture of macroeconomics that are depressing people, about the IMF and about GDP. And yet everybody who gets up this morning and everybody listening to this programme has to deal with the micro, the day-to-day management of their business, the day-to-day living within community. And the question is, they can't affect the IMF, but what can they do in their own communities to try and provide services for their young people or their elderly or for the community? How can we work together? A president needs to set that tone as well. And you raised the point about being a TD. There are very many fine TDs of all parties, but at national level, I believe if I was to enter in that guise, that could take years to become. Potentially, if you were ever to be in a position to be able to affect change or legislation, I think I welcome the talk about reforming of the political system to make it more relevant to legislate for the people. But at the moment,
but
I've
you
been
could
working.
eventually shape that legislation, which you'll never be able to do as president.
Well, I think you can shape much more than the legislation. You can shape the tone and the confidence of a nation. And I've been working for the last 3 years in every single part of the country, mentoring, supporting, acknowledging, trying to support people from all sectors right across the community. And there's where my skill set is, and there's where my background is, coming from farming and agriculture, being a professional youth worker and working with youth organisations and community development, working like I do to try and support those with disabilities. I have a disability, and I'm hugely committed as patron of the Association for Supported Employment for People with Disabilities to try and shape all of that.
Way, Sean, what is the nature of your disability?
I have cataracts, which very many people would be familiar with as a filament over your eyes. 48 years ago, the medical technology didn't exist in order to solve that problem. But I have less sight than most people, but I'm more grateful for my sight, I guess, than many people are for their perfect sight. And today I visit the National Council for the Blind, and Josie Duffy and their people are doing tremendous work for people with sight loss. People with sight loss live with that every single day. And yet my message to people with disabilities, as it is now to the country, is most people when they're born can do 10,000 things. I can do 9,000. And I want my life to be defined by the 9,000 things I can do and not the 1,000 things I can't. And at the moment, I think the message for Ireland and for all our communities is let's focus on the 9,000 things that are working and that we're good at and that we can do. And let's not focus everything on the 1,000 things that are not working. Because everywhere I go, Will, today and every day, there are heroes working, and we need to support and encourage those because we need more of them in our communities. We need everybody now to be a leader to turn the country around.
It's all very positive. It all sounds very noble. But people, I suppose, through the last 15 years have developed a cynicism and a scepticism about anybody in public life, maybe rightly so. And here's the vintage Irish question. What's in it for you?
What's in it for me is a sense of self-satisfaction. What encouraged me many years ago to set up a youth club, because there was a need there and I wanted to change the fact that there weren't services for young people. What helped people set up the Living Links programme in Mullingar yesterday, and what helped people set up the National Council for the Blind in Tullamore here. Everybody who steps forward, to create something, whether that's a youth club, a disability group, a care for the elderly, a GAA club or an athletics club, why do people do it? Because at our heart,
they usually do it in their own time. You're talking about doing something on a big scale, full-time job, I don't know, can you still manage your own businesses or have any input into your own businesses while you're president?
Yeah, no, I've stepped back from all my businesses because it's important to focus solely on this. I mean, even in terms of the election itself, my focus solely is on this. But if elected and honoured to be elected as president, the job of being president is full-time and you couldn't have any distractions. My focus would be Ireland and only Ireland. But I take you back to the point of the cynicism, and there is a degree of cynicism about people who step forward. But most people who are entrepreneurial, and I don't mean entrepreneurial just in the sense of setting up businesses, I mean people who do community work, who help out and set up football clubs, who take the kids training on Saturday morning. What's in it for them? A sense of satisfaction, of fulfilment, using your skills, your talents and your abilities to try and affect change, to make people's lives better. Ultimately, if all of us assess what a successful life is, when we look back at that, it's never about making lots of money or having lots of assets. It's always about doing the very best that you can and helping your community. Most of us know that our sense of self-esteem and our happiness and fulfillment comes from helping others. That's the essence of community, and that's why I see that coming back to the fore. And you're right that we lost that in the last 15 years. But I think if we're going to move forward, we have to move forward with a modern outlook, but hanging on to the things that are truly at our core, and that's those core values that you speak of.
If people want to see you in the flesh and make their own judgments today, you have a busy itinerary.
I'm dropping down to the National Council for the Blind because I have a great regard for them. And then I'm off to Mount Mellick this afternoon to meet some of the local partnership companies, the members of the VEC and some members of the local jobs club. But what I would ask people to do is I launched a website, SeanGallagher.com. People can follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll be travelling the country again, and I'll be back in Tullamore. My mother is from William Street here in Tullamore, and my uncle Simon and my aunt Josephine still live here in the Arden Road, and my uncle Father Lorenzo would be familiar to many people around here, and they were very much a part of the business community. My grandfather started a sweet shop up over Kilbeggan Bridge, so I spent many of my summers here, Will, working in the shop. I'm not sure how welcome I was because I think I ate more of the profits than I actually contributed to, but I have very fond memories of Tullamore in this region, and so I'm delighted to be down here meeting all the people, and I will be back again.
By the way, Sean, what age are you?
I am a ripe, youthful age of 49.
49, so not too old to be president then.
Well, I was making the point, and there's some debate about age, and I made the point in the last couple of days that it's not insignificant that our previous presidents, Mary Robinson, and our current one, Mary McAleese, our current president, were both 48, and I was making the point that it is a job, I think, that requires a lot of energy and dynamism if you're going to travel the country and also work abroad to represent Ireland. So I'm
more than a 77-year-old might have.
Now, Will, you know that you're not going to lead me down that road to say anything negative about ageism.
I can't about Gay Byrne at all, can I?
Gay Byrne is a lovely man. I met him recently at a charity event that him and I were involved in for the Crumlins Children's Hospital, and I found him to be a wonderful man. And that's a matter for Gay to make up his mind. It's not about age. The point I was making when I was asked last week, before Gay Byrne's name was even mentioned, I made the point that before President Mary Robinson took over the role, there was a perception that it was a retirement role, a reward for service in political life. And people said to me more recently they would like that it didn't revert back to that, and that it's not insignificant that our Mary Robinson and Mary McAleese were both younger and then saw it as a job of work to do, have headed them rather than their job of work being behind them.
Well, you can tell me what you really think when the interview's over. Sean Gallagher, best of luck.
Will, lovely to be with you, and thank you.